Welcome to the Everybody Eats podcast. I'm your host, Blake Greenawalt. Have you ever shaken the hand of the farmer that feeds you? Our mission is to explore and share local food systems and show how food sovereign communities can be established across the country. Join us as we speak with farm founders, innovators, and educators as we learn about their paths forward. Enjoy! Joining the podcast now is Sam Ritchie. Sam is a second-generation farmer at Native Offerings Farm, located in Ellicottville, New York, just outside of Buffalo, New York. The farm specializes in vegetable production and now recreational cannabis, and the farm also tends to a small beef herd. Sam has experience with mushroom cultivation, rare tropical fruits, agroecology systems, and he's also worked in various production kitchens. Sam wants to make small-scale, ecological, decentralized agriculture possible. Sam, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. First podcast.
Awesome. It'll be great. This will be a great conversation. So to begin, we're going to start with your background. I want to know how you got into agriculture and farming. So let's begin there.
Okay. So my introduction to agriculture was immediate. It was as soon as I was born. I was born into a farming family. At the time, my parents, Deb and Stu Richey, were farming land in East Aurora at the roll-off farm there, and they were kind of managing that farm for the farmers. About 5 years later, they bought their own farm down near Ellicottville, New York, in Little Valley, and so it's kind of been my whole life, my upbringing. So it was just by default.
So is that like your earliest memory is like working on the farm or?
I mean, yeah, they're all mixed in there because it was such a constant thing. And I do want to touch on the fact that when I was a kid, I took it for granted and I was a little bit of a brat about it at times. You know, I was like, I have to go clean out the pig pen and like, oh, I have to pull these weeds out and I have to do farm chores. And I thought I wanted to get out of there. When people asked me, hey, Sam, are you going to ever take over the farm for your parents? I would say, no. It's only kind of later in life and when I like left the country for a stint that I kind of realized like, wow, what a privilege that was.
Yeah.
And looking back, wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. Similarly for me, like I didn't grow up on a farm, but we had a garden and we had a lot of land. So there was some like tending needed. And I, same way, was always like, I don't want to do this or it's a chore, but then you leave it and you're like, wait, I miss all that nature. I need to get back to that.
Don't know what you have till it's gone.
Exactly. So you did all the farm chores and you're helping out and everything. That question of the leaving the farm or returning to the farm is always like such a common theme, I think, for like all family farms with the kids. It's like the kids grow up and maybe one out of however many, I don't know if you have siblings.
2 sisters.
Maybe one of them is like always all in, but there's always one who's like not. But then, yeah, that come around is always so interesting to me.
Yeah.
So let's get into the farm a little bit.
Sure.
So we said where it's located, just south of Buffalo. So what is the actual size of the farm and like what do we got? Like hoop houses, food plots?
So this farm it was a certified organic farm for a long time. It's about, the whole farm is about 180 acres. However, much of that is not under production. Some of that is hay fields, some of that is fallow or just, your unused agricultural land that we'll tend by mowing occasionally. Some of that is forest and some of that is pasture and some of that is vegetable production. Right now, we have reduced the size of our vegetable production. We have 11 fields that we do, crop rotation on, and traditional organic agricultural practices like cover cropping, crop rotation, composting, applying compost, amending the soil with organic inputs from off the farm as well. So tillage, light tillage.
Yeah.
But right now, the area under cultivation is pretty small. We used to have a CSA, which at its peak was around 500 members.
Oh, wow.
So larger sized, small CSA. But this year, because, you mentioned the getting into cannabis, that focusing on building up that has meant that we're reducing the size of our vegetable crop for now. It just, there's only so much that you can do. So what we manage for vegetable production right now is probably about 3 football fields worth right now. We sell that at the Elmwood Bidwell Farmers Market and the East Aurora Market on Wednesdays.
Yeah, that was going to be another question, where you're selling your products. So then what type of vegetables are you growing? Are you growing everything? I mean, with the CSA, I know you have to have variety, so you must have had quite the variety.
My parents are really into the whole picture, all the different vegetables. And like with the CSA, yes, you want variety because people are coming every week, and you want people to be able to show up and not just say, here's a kohlrabi and some beet greens, have fun. This is all we got. But to be able to have some substitutions as well. So that was always kind of built in, but also it was an ethos to have all this variety. The reason, my father got into farming was because he got really sick in college. And, he's not from an agricultural background as well. He's from a suburb of Toronto. He's from Mississauga. Okay. His parents were like a teacher and an actuary. But he had this realization, like, we need to eat, we need to have health. You're getting sick at such a young age. You need to support your health. And that, that alignment led him to farming. And then finally, my mom was on the same path and they started this thing. But you need a varied diet, right? And there's so many different things that the land can produce, all these different colors and the purples and the oranges and the carrots and all these different things, all these different shapes follow all the way down to varied nutrients, all these different things. So it's the ethos of health that gives us the variety of vegetables. So we grow probably hundreds of different types of vegetables, from tomatoes, root crops, like different types of beets, lettuce, tomatillos, different brassicas, which are like your arugulas and your Asian greens, things like that, broccolis. Some beef cows is not a vegetable, but they eat grass, which is kind of like the vegetable that you're getting through the beef, and a pasture that you're consuming, which is getting a little carried away here. Get real excited about vegetables.
No, that's good.
All types.
That biodiversity is key, especially with these alternative small farms compared to like the factory farm monocrop
for sure
systems. And with that biodiversity, you get resilience, you get the whole, like you said, the whole ecology, the whole ecosystem. You get the good bugs that are eating the bad bugs. You have a balance. The balance is never struck on the factory farm. It's all one way and it's all bad.
Well, I wouldn't say all bad, but the impacts are all bad, and it's ignoring that law of nature that diversity is resilience, like you're saying, and all this complexity that comes with that, the good bugs, the bad bugs, etc. We have pests on our crop, and sometimes people from other areas of agriculture will come and say, oh my God, there's an aphid, spray right now. And we're like, don't worry. There have been aphids out here. They're just a couple. It's going to make a tiny little hole, and our ladybugs that come back every year from our host plants are going to take care of that. It's fine. And yeah, that's the part of the ethos as well in the organic farming. Beyond the diversity of food in your diet being beneficial to human health, a diversity of plants in an agri-ecosystem is beneficial to that agri-ecosystem's health. It's the whole circular thing. Yeah.
So then you're selling, you said you used to do the CSA, so no longer?
Not this year.
Okay, not this year.
That was, to focus more on the cannabis.
Yeah, got you.
I'll proceed that by, I'll just explain the situation a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it is an issue. Like, oh, you're going to grow cannabis and not do this food thing. That was the whole ethos of the business. Well, here's the thing. Cannabis is a crop that can be very high value, very high margin. And I know we're going to get into this later, but one of the biggest issues facing small farms, one of the biggest hurdles for decentralized sustainable agriculture is the cost of production and being profitable. So many farms I worked on were in the red every single year.
Yeah.
And this cannabis crop is a way to within the farm, subsidize the farm, subsidize research on other crops, progression. As you know, conventional agriculture and our factory farming food system receives subsidies from the government, from our tax money. Small farms don't have that. So it's a way for, if you can develop a crop that is high margin, that could be value-added products, that could be cannabis, and do that successfully, it can allow that farm to carry on into the future and be economically sustainable. It is a business. We do pay taxes. We do have to pay wages, all those things. So, that's just a little aside.
That kind of fits in because my next question was, what are the challenges? So it sounds like the financials are the challenge, and that seems to be the common theme, like you said, and that kind of comes back to why I'm doing this. And I always say this, I'm like, I'm not an economist, but to me, it's like if we can just drive more business to these small farms and get more people to realize that there is an alternative to your grocery store, then the economics start to make sense a little bit and the farms can stay open more. And I mean, I have nothing wrong with cannabis, so I'm fine with that. But no, I totally understand how some people would be like, no, you should use that space to grow vegetables. And it's like, yeah, I agree. But also, don't you still want this farm? We got to do what we got to do.
It's a path. On the challenges that we've been facing, I got a little bit into the financial side. The cost of production in organic farming can be rather high. That's based on the scale and the technology that we're using. A lot of technological investment has went into these larger systems because that's where the research is, that's where the policy is, that's where the money is. So you get $2 million tractors with AI-powered, computer vision-powered laser weeders that can, the whole thing, all right? We could talk about this for ages, but we are using a lot our hands. We're using a lot hand tools. We're using a lot multiple people, that our minimum wage is very, here's the thing. The value on food in our country is not what it should be. We have so much value put on our healthcare industry with medicine that is processed, but our food is seen as something that should be very cheap. And, historically, when you don't have cheap foods, you have riots. So, I get it. You have social upheaval and overthrowing it. I get it, all right? But it's a real challenge because when you're trying to produce good food, it costs a lot more because the technology of the small scale has not been as developed. Yeah. So that's a big challenge is there's some technology that's there. Like there are little robots that we can use, but they're $200,000. There are these computer vision things, but they're not accessible to the small farmer. That technology is for the big farmer. Another challenge has been climate change, dealing with longer periods of drought, more fluctuating temperatures. That's been a real problem. Invasive species, diseases, environmental pollutants. But it's always challenging. But that's why you build resilience into the system, and that's why we try to move forward and develop new techniques and technologies to try to address these things.
Were there plans going forward for more expansion, or are you kind of just trying to maintain what's there now and not really thinking about, let's go bigger because you're a small farm. I don't know if you want to be that large farm, but I don't know. Scaling is always a question that I ask.
Scaling is interesting, and I think there are different layers of scaling. I'll also say that, I am the son of the farmers. My mother and father own the farm, and they kind of are steering the ship right now. I'm more kind of helping them out. And for me, small sustainable agriculture is kind of my life's work. I'm not sure where I fit into that yet. I would like to, carry on that farm. And in that sense, I'm not sure what would happen with it, but they are at a kind of a point in their lives where they're trying to do the good work, but they're not looking to scale. They're getting a little bit older. They know what works. They know they're extremely experienced, amazing farmers. I've learned everything from them. But they're not looking to expand. They're looking to have a cannabis crop to support a good income and make, good medicine, more for the mental realm, and be able to produce some food into the future that can be sold at a farmer's market, so you can directly interface with your small community of customers. But beyond that, I'm not sure what the future holds.
Gotcha. And then we mentioned how cannabis got involved. That was kind of, I don't want to say like a crutch, but kind of like a way to subsidize, get your own sort of subsidy with the lack of small farm subsidies.
It was an opportunity. We got involved with cannabis when hemp became legal. So hemp is cannabis. It's just legally, hemp means it contains less than 0.3% THC, dry weight. So when that happened, they were issuing licenses to small farmers to grow hemp. So, we moved on that and got that license, grew a crop, couldn't sell any of it. But when
why couldn't you sell?
It was above. So at the time, the legal limit was 0.1% THC. We're growing outdoors. You can't really, the environmental impacts on the crop are going, it was really sunny that day, and then it was cold, and that stress caused that plant to produce a little bit more of this cannabinoid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to control. When you're growing indoors, like for medical marijuana, you can control everything, and you can say this genetic has this potential. If you do it in this way, it will reach. Anyways, it was, I think our flower was like 0.2% over, so it was illegal. Actually, if we got raided by like the DEA, they could have sent us to prison for a very long time, technically speaking, for that during that time. But when it became legal, the recreational cannabis, and they started issuing these licenses, they were called conditioner cultivator licenses by the OCM, that's the Office of Cannabis Management. They gave priority along with social equity recipients, which is awesome. If anyone wants to check out what the OCM is trying to do in the state with social equity and cannabis, it's pretty cool. The execution, not so great, but the idea and what they've managed to do is really cool. But they also offered the license early to farmers that had grown hemp, because they're saying, these farmers know how to do this. We need crop for our market. Give these license to these farmers. We're going to get a crop back. So that's how we got into it.
Awesome. So any other thoughts on the farm? If not, we can move on to our next topic about the general food system. Or maybe you could just mention like what your day-to-day is there.
Sure.
Run down what you do.
I'm currently the cannabis cultivation manager there. I have a co-cultivator manager now that we just brought on, who is a graduate from the NCCC cannabis program. There's all these different frameworks starting to pop up around cannabis, and it's very interesting, the interest in cannabis versus like sustainable farming, because you see all these programs in universities and all this excitement and all these young people getting into cannabis, which is agriculture, but it's not for food production, is it? So there's something there about how we think about farming. But yeah, I'm the cannabis cultivation manager, so it's a lot of applied science. It's a very particular plant. So we're doing a no-till system, so I kind of manage the no-till system, manage nutrient intake, do pruning on the plants, and during that time we have different people tending to the vegetable crops, harvesting, washing, packing, and sending them out up to East Aurora and Buffalo, where we can find our consumer market.
Awesome. The other question was about the small beef herd.
Oh yeah.
So grass-fed,
Mm-hmm.
and is that for just managing the pastures, or then are you processing any of those animals?
It's not for managing the pasture per se, because a pasture, like in ecology, a grassland needs ruminants. Like think about the Great Plains of the U.S. with buffalo herds just sweeping across. So the herd of ruminants goes across the field and eats the grass. The grass likes to be eaten. Yeah. Other plants, they'll die under that pressure, and that's how grass can keep coming back, because it's managed by this very powerful beast. The animals walk across and leave hoof marks in the dirt where water collects, where seeds can germinate. They then poop, fertilizing. So we have hay fields on the farm. And on the hay fields, we actually rent them out to other farmers that have like dairy cows and things like that. Big dairy area south of Buffalo. And so what they'll do is they'll come, they'll mow, they'll rake, they'll make hay bales, take the hay bales off the farm, feed it to their cows in their barn. Then they'll take the manure from the barn and spread it on the field. So that's pastoral management, working from home kind of thing.
Yeah.
So our pasture, it's rotational grazing, and it kind of supports itself. The grass feeds the cows feed the grass. We keep it managed. It's a very small herd right now. I think at its peak, we only had like 30 cows, but right now it's more like 13. They manage each other, but that is, we sell it, directly in quarter cow, half cow, or whole cow to just a few.
And then do you process that on your own, or do you send it to somewhere?
That's sent to a butcher. I love processing animals. I think there's pain in animal agriculture. You are killing a sentient being before its timely end, after you have put that animal into a system, kind of gave it a life, whatever life that is, from CAFO to beautiful green pasture, but you are killing that animal. And cows are social animals. They mourn, And the butchering, when you do your own butchering, you can kind of feel that and more fully respect, in a way, that animal. Your hands are cleaving that meat that will then be ate. This is about to be kind of controversial, but I really think if anyone who eats meat, if you can't kill an animal yourself, you should not eat meat. It's a painful thing. It's painful, but we send it to a butcher.
I semi-agree with you, because it's the reason why, at least to me, that factory farming is so allowed, I guess. One, because we think we need it to feed everyone, but then two, it's because it's out of sight, out of mind. If we got a glimpse into these slaughterhouses, we would be horrified.
Oh, yeah.
And PETA has done some work doing that. You can go elsewhere on the internet to see that stuff. I'm not recommending anyone to go seek that out, but if you're ever flirting with the idea of vegetarianism or that sort of thing, or want to be more conscious about your meat, go take a look and go see for yourself. But that is to say, that is one way that that the meats are made, but there is also this alternative. These small butchers, I'm sure your butcher is a little bit more humane than the factory farm.
Yeah. Well, and it's about the life of the animal. I'm a little oversensitive sometimes, but when I was a kid, I would clean out the pig pens, and pigs are very smart. I would befriend the pigs. I would give them names and stuff. And every time the pigs would go to get slaughtered, I would cry a little bit, because it was like, oh man, shovel licker. Oh, it was so fun to ride the pig around the pig pen. I literally named a pig shovel licker. I don't know if that's demeaning or not. Anyways, but then, okay, I would get the bacon and I would eat it. I'd be like, I know what pig that's from, and it would taste so good, all right, and it would nurture me. And so how I kind of whether this is mental gymnastics or not, it would be like, if we didn't have this farm, that pig would not have had that life where they can come in the barn, they have a big outdoor area with lots of mud, some grass, they're rooting around, they're in the sun. These pigs, from my perspective, are pretty happy.
Yeah.
Playing around. If we did not have this business, have this food production method where we were killing these animals, that animal would not have got to live that life. And then from an anthropocentric perspective, in my head, trying to relate everything back to the personal, is well, if I knew I could either never exist in the first place, or if I could experience 30, 25 years of my life having a great life, and then someone was going to kill me and eat me, I'd say, sign me up. Sign me up. Of course, that's not really an ethically sound perspective, but that's kind of how I work through it. We're in this predator-prey relationship with the animal. Can we make it respectful?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it a bit weird? Yes, everyone's got to have their own relationship with that.
Okay, let's now shift to talking about the food system. So how do you see our current food system, Sam?
I was doing some writing about this earlier, and maybe I'll just read an excerpt to kind of set this up. A question like, what is the food system? I mean, this is a huge question. Okay, so I'll just try to do a little synopsis, because I was writing about this earlier and I was like, I know this is going to be a difficult question for me. I'll kind of put it this way: reductive science plus ethical or spiritual or cultural, whatever you want to say, disconnection from nature. That I kind of see as the undercurrents of our food system, along with the lens of our economic system. You know, the positive feedback loop of money, which is a medium of exchange, disconnection from nature. Mm-hmm. That equation, you know, the reductive science perspective plus a disconnection from nature, viewed under that economic lens, means destruction of ecology. I'll add to that ecology includes humans.
Yes.
So it's destruction of ourselves. So from disconnection to ecology, and which is also to ourselves, through this whole thing, you know, what does that yield? What crops within us is that yielding? It yields destruction. And I don't want to go into this like just kind of like really slamming our current food system on how bad it is. You know, farmers that are farming conventionally are not evil. You know, even big companies are, and policymakers are oftentimes working within their paradigm to do what is right. Like if you talk to people in conventional agriculture, they'll say, I'm doing the hard work to feed the world. And a lot of people really believe that. And in a lot of ways, it is true. That is how the world eats. As we know, food waste, economic disparity, food deserts, starving people, inequity are all tied into this thing. But I don't want to kind of say it's all bad. But I do want to highlight this one thing about food systems. And now I start to get into the disparate kind of connection. So bear with me here, guys. At a certain point in history, when we started to move from an agrarian society to a centralized industrial society, you know, in the US at least, we had people moving off of farms to go to the city to work in factories. This disconnection from nature. When this started to happen, we started to take people off the farm and we started to centralize everything. And when that happened, we started to look at things in a different way. You know, we have this lens of economy. How can we make it more efficient? How can we make this cheaper? How can we, economies of scale, right? In a very reductive way.
The ecology of humans is a big factor for me in that a lot of people have been like trained to think that we aren't nature, that we are separate from it. And that was the biggest thing to me, is like, no, like we are nature, we are part of it, we are from it, we are from the dirt, we will go back into the dirt. And the modern life has kind of driven that idea out of us in a way for us to then be at war with nature, frankly, with the way that we like destroy the planet. But then like you were saying, how it's not all like doom and gloom, and I often think like that sometimes, but like the other night we ordered takeout and I had like a chicken souvlaki wrap, and I was like thinking, I'm like, is this system really that bad? I'm like, this is pretty good. Like, exactly. But I say it works, but then we still have so much food waste and so many people who aren't eating. So it doesn't really work. So it's like, what's going on here?
It works, but there are consequences.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, like, and everything has consequences. Like the creative aspect of human nature is consequences implicit. If you take a stick and a stone, you put them together and you make an axe and you cut down a tree, that's great. However, there's consequences to that. You upscale that to modern logging and you have deforestation and desertification, you know, consequences based on scale. So in our, you know, in our modern food system, it's like, yes, somewhere along the way, we kind of had this separation, both physically, how we're moving our bodies through space, in cars, on sidewalks, in the house, and your, shoes, the whole thing. Physical separation from nature, as well as a mental cut from nature. There's people and there's nature. I'm going to go and be in nature now, and then I'm going home.
Yeah.
Which is not nature. What is the number one tactic in warfare? Divide and conquer. Separate. This concept of the other. That's nature. As soon as you cut that link to something, whether it be through phobias, whether it be through racism, dehumanization of the enemy, as soon as you say they're different, that's different. Nature is different than human. We are divine beings. We are meant to control this. You can more easily destroy that without seeing that through destroying that, you're also destroying yourself, our physical and mental health. Through the pollution that's caused, glyphosate in 30 parts per billion can have devastating effects on your health. And many of the products that we use, 9 out of 10 beers have over 25 parts per billion of glyphosate in them. And it's like, okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you don't have to know that because the legal limits in this country are much higher than what is impactful on your health. In Europe, those limits are way lower. Mm-hmm. So now I'm trying to answer this question of how I see the food system. And obviously, you see how it's a big question. But...
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of fluid because it's been fluid for me. And since doing this podcast, it's also changed a lot because when I started the podcast, my thinking was we need to completely not destroy, but abandon those systems. But then I thought maybe not. Maybe we just need to have more of these small farms that are doing the right thing. And I don't know, I'm still back and forth because I'm no, I still don't want those factory farms. But then I think, well, then we won't feed everyone. But then I think we're not feeding everyone. So it's so confusing. And
for sure.
And it really just brings me back to, we're not going to destroy the other food system. We're just going to build this parallel one over here. And eventually it'll flip. Hopefully that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, I want to chime in on that point where you were talking about a parallel food system, and you're talking about how can we feed the world within this food system, and do we need to destroy it? Would that really work? And you're right. The answer is no. If right now we could stop every factory farm from functioning, that would be bad. Oh my God. Yeah. So I want to go back to the point that I made about technology, and that we've developed so much technology and infrastructure around this paradigm of where I'm going to control this plot of land. It's going to be flat. I'm going to grow a monoculture here. I'm going to have this amount of inputs, and I'm going to centralize that. Then I'm going to distribute it to everyone else. The farmers are getting paid a very low amount of money, and then at each level, people are making more money, and then it goes to the consumer at, it seems to us like a high price, but or a low price, but it's a pretty high price because there's been all these steps and all this complexity added in there. All this technology, from the agricultural implements to the chemical formulations to the distribution system to something like a grocery store, technology of centralization has been built up through that paradigm. All the research has been done through that paradigm of disconnection from nature a little bit and disconnection from your food. So I think that within this system, if we can just start to not necessarily completely push that system away because we live in this world right now, but to start adding some nuance, start to add some technology in the same way that we can use on a smaller scale, a more local scale. So if we start to, not destroy what's there, but actually maybe use some of that. There's this, let's use the example of a weeding tool. Mm-hmm. There's this computer vision aided laser weeder. That's probably a bad example. But can we develop that for a small farm? How do we develop that for a small farm? Oh man, I don't know. Well, what about research? What about researching, small systems and how they're actually resource efficient? How we can start to combat climate change? Can we prove that? And in that way, can we get government grant money to do real research on these small farms and start to show that? Because this is how policy decisions are made. And a lot of that research is coming from big companies. Dow, Tyson's doing, everyone's doing research. They have a budget for it. Can we start doing that? Can we start developing small technology? Can we start developing technology in the social space? Can we start developing our own local distribution systems that function in the same river that we're in right now, the same economic system, using even technological or practices from factory farming, and just bringing that consciousness of connection to nature, respect. We're not just going to apply NPK. We're going to look at the system. We're going to see, is that running off into the stream? Okay, so how do we develop that technology to be able to, do this organically, do it in a way that doesn't harm our environment? And I'm talking very, vaguely here. It's hard for me to kind of put this into words, but yeah, I think if we could start steering the ship and developing technology for small scale, that would be very helpful.
So how did you develop this perspective? Was it just from simply being born into a small farm and then doing your own research about the big farms, or how did you kind of get all of this into your brain?
Well, a lot of it was from, being born into a small farm and, just having all that transplanted into me by my parents who had that, that's how it happens. So that was kind of the first perspective. And then it was, kind of going out into the world and thinking that I didn't want to do farming. And I knew I wanted to do something with the environment, but I was like, farming, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of a lot of work. And then it was my own research on the conventional agriculture. I haven't worked on a conventional farm. I probably should. This perspective about, developing technology within this system, and not because I used to have a burn it down mentality. No, that's horrible. It's all evil. We need to create our own economy. Capitalism is evil. I have worked for a lot of different businesses that operated in the red. And I don't want to disencourage anyone from trying to work within an alternative economic system. And I think that we should. I think as much as we can, create local, cashless kind of, work trade, whatever.
Barter.
Yeah, barter. That's great. But if you're trying, you asked the question of scale. If you're trying to have a business, if you're trying to feed people through any of our supply channels, government assistance, all these different things that can go into food equity, you need to be able to survive within the system. And that's where technology comes in. And I'm not talking just about machines, but about maybe a shared ownership model of a farm, maybe a land kind of rental agreement, all these different things like local banks within your community. We need to start putting in the work to survive within the economic system that we have, to turn it from within. Because I've seen so many farmers that had so much energy and they're in the red and they can't afford to barely feed themselves because of this mindset of, oh, I don't need to worry about money. We need to burn that whole system down. And by thinking that you can't burn it down, I'm sorry. We can try and eventually, hopefully we will. But right now, we need to survive and start to steer that ship, like you're saying, make that flip. So, that's the whole thing with the cannabis on the farm and the research and all this.
So what are some, I know you kind of mentioned it, but what are some other actions that we can do to decentralize the food system? Is it simply go to your farmer's market, visit these small farms, or do you have some other bigger ideas to push the gas a little bit more on it?
Well, I think it starts if you're willing and it's interesting to grow whatever of your own food that you can. This could be a little tiny pot of an herb in your window, and it's not going to produce much, but it's going to be great. Interfacing with your local food system, with your local farmer, seeing how they farm, volunteering at the farm. A lot of places you can go and volunteer. Like I said, one of the major issues facing farms is labor. It's very expensive, but a lot of farms will, not all, but a lot of farms will be very receptive to volunteers, interested people that want to be more involved in their food system, coming out to work, which can be a good workout. You're out in the sun, have a good time, go at your leisure, you're not getting paid. And then you can do that in exchange for vegetables. If not, go to your farmer's market, meet your local farmers. Yeah, so that's the first step. I think beyond that, we need to start seriously changing the paradigm through research and policy. So looking at small farms and doing real science, because like the science that is behind the conventional food system is real science. But in my perspective, it's reductive. You're not thinking about the consequences of your actions. And that is so complex. Microbiology. In 1 tablespoon of soil, there's trillions of different living entities that carry out a whole bunch of functions, which, as we know, as people listening to this podcast probably know, conventional agriculture with the nutrient salts and herbicides, fungicides, pesticides kill. What are the consequences of that? We don't know, all right? Because to study that would be so expensive. Mm-hmm. So we need to start studying these things to prove in a hard science way that, actually this plot of land under ecological production can produce more calories. Actually a distribution system that is local is more resilient. And then from there, having policymakers be able to draw from that. But it's like, how do we do that? It's hard, but I think that is really the way forward, and just getting people involved, getting people excited about agriculture, making it cool, making it fun, getting young people out there. It's like, are you concerned with what's happening on this planet? Are you concerned with desertification? Are you, climate change, people starving everywhere? What can you do? You can actually just find a community of people that's working on that and get involved. I know people don't have time and all this, but I think that's what we really need to do. So, research, I think, is a good place to start.
That time aspect is interesting, and it brings me back to the episode that you just listened to, and I listened to it again yesterday with Dom, the Mighty Beats episode.
Amazing one.
He says we need a reprioritization of our time and money, frankly, because we buy all these things and all these luxury items, and then the last thing that we want to spend the most money on is food.
Right.
And it's no, the other way around. He buys $10 cartons of eggs. He's like, I'm spending the most on food, and then all the other stuff is going to be second, because the body is the first place that I live.
Yeah, I love that. That, yes, your body is the first place you live. The second and also first place you live is this earth, and then you inhabit different spaces within this earth. But It's like, look at the bigger picture, What are we doing to our home? What are you doing to your home, your first home, And
a kind of a sad and tricky, this is kind of gets into the evil part of it to me with the main conventional system, is that we don't really see the negative effects immediately. It's a long-term thing where you then get all these chronic illnesses late in your life because you've been bioaccumulating all of these poisons in your body all your life. And it takes, I don't know, for me, it was, I saw some documentaries and I saw some stuff to realize that food is medicine, and that you should just, it was not Omnivore's Dilemma. It was one of Michael Pollan's books. I think it was
Botany of Desire.
But anyways, the whole point of the book was eat whole foods. And that really sparked in my mind, oh yeah, if you just eat whole foods, you're probably going to be fine. It's stay away from the processed, and I'm not saying every processed thing, because even bacon, meat is technically a processed food. If you cut an apple, that's technically a processed food.
We know what you mean. We know what you mean.
Yeah, not the ultra processed stuff. So, and then the whole factor of just that food is medicine, and if you can just eat healthy, then you won't need to rely on this exploitive medical system that a lot of people can't even like get the proper care that they need.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like when you're thinking about, it's like what you said, oh, technically cutting an apple is processed. Like a lot of people will say everything's organic. It's like, you know what I mean. All right. Like, yes, there's an organic chemical that's chemistry. But when we're talking about organic food, we're talking about this practice, this new meaning of the word. Like when you think about, people will say, oh, well, that chemical, that's organic. It's derived from a plant, Think about the intention, though, of why is that chemical in your food? Why is high fructose corn syrup the sweetener? And just think about that intention. It's beyond like what it is. Oh, it's corn. It's fine. Okay, great. Oh, it's a safe level of glyphosate. Okay, great. Okay, fine. What is the intention behind having your food be like this? Having your food be processed? So is it to make it taste better? I mean, yeah, they figured out how to make it taste good, but shelf stable, producing something from commodity crops, adding value. These motivations for having these, packaging your food in such a way, sterilizing your food, the motivation is profit.
Yeah.
And I've worked in food businesses, I know how this works even at a very kind of pure sense. It's like, oh, well, if we have this crop, can we can it? Because then we don't have to sell it in 2 days. For this price, we can sell it over a 6-month period for this price. So it's like, what is the intention behind what is in your food? And a whole food, there's nothing to untangle there. You're eating something from the ground, as we have evolved to eat, as we have bred it to be healthy to us, for that purpose. A lot of times this processing is not for our benefit. It's not for our health at all. It's for profit margin. So I think that's a good question to ask yourself.
And then how you kind of mentioned this, and you said like getting people excited, but how can we really encourage people to question the food system? Because I know there's the population out there, the small population who is like aware of the stuff and aware of all what's going on with the food system and the problems. And then there's also a whole population of people who make enough money to say like buy all organic produce, and they think that they're doing the best thing. I don't know, how do we break through? And then there's the other people who don't have access at all to healthy food because they may live in the food apartheid. So there's those different camps. I'm just wondering like how can we really get people? I don't like the fear tactics. I don't like the scaring people. To me, it's the show the benefits, and then people can see like, oh, that growing food at home, oh yeah, that does look nice, but then, oh, maybe it seems hard, but educate yourself. I don't know. What do you think? How do we encourage people?
No, it's hard because, even like with this podcast, like who's going to be listening to this podcast? Someone who doesn't care about where their food comes from? No. And then it's like, so how do you reach those people?
Exactly.
But so it's kind of like it's that echo chamber thing. But like you were saying, I don't like the fear tactic at all. Like, yes, we should be aware, of the impacts of what's going on in this world. We should take some of that into ourselves so we can process it and, feel the pain of that truth to guide our actions, as pain is a good teacher, right? But you don't want to make people just like guilty, like, oh, you're destroying the world by eating spam, whatever. I think love, and I know that sounds like whatever, but like you were saying, how do you get people excited? Where does excitement come from? Love of something. If you can have the experience, and a lot of people, again, can't experience this or aren't even, adjacent enough to be able to experience this. But if you can have someone experience growing a plant from seed in a way that isn't killing your environment, like, yeah, you're pulling out some weeds. That's violence, right? But it's respectful violence. You're tending your garden, okay? Watch that beautiful plant grow. Smell the aromas of the garden. Feel your body getting stronger by tending to this crop. Or just, enjoying it, picking it, cooking it if you want, and eating that experience, it's an experience of love. You're putting love into this thing, and it's reciprocating with nutrition and food. So the closer that we can get people to that, the better. I think one way that I could see for everybody, equitable access for everyone, something everyone can experience no matter who you are, where you are, and you're going to enjoy it, is through good food, real good food. Can we set up, MAP does a mobile market, Massachusetts Avenue Project, which is great because you're bringing this food and people can see it and be like, wow, you try it. Oh my God, that's so good. Wow, that's so good. You go to a farmer's market, you buy lettuce. People who never liked lettuce before will try it and be like, oh, wow, this is good. Oh, that carrot is so good. That's love. So can we, and this is with chefs, this is with small food producers, can we get good food everywhere we can? And I'm talking like really good food, not just like, fine food, like, oh, this is a farm to table, $50 a plate, nice little chopped up, steak tartare with the kohlrabi and the whatever. I mean, even something really simple like, okay, so take Flat 12. They're doing a lion's mane chicken nugget, which through a government funded program is now in many public schools across the state. And kids are eating this mushroom, with local eggs that they use, and this locally raised mushroom, which most people never even have heard of, lion's mane. All right. What's that? Oh, that looks weird. It looks like a chicken nugget. It tastes like a chicken nugget. The kids love them. And it's like, wow, that's so good. Oh my God, it's a mushroom. Oh, where's that from? Oh, mushroom. You can eat mushrooms. Oh, mushrooms metabolize waste products. Oh, they can also do bioremediation. Get those wheels turning from eating that, to kids. This is Flat 12 has done this thing. The team over there, I love working with them. Very ingenious. And that is one way that we can start to turn people onto this through food, through love. Everybody loves food. Come on. Chicken nugget, right? Now you got the McDonald's chicken nugget, which is from this factory farming system. It's from all over the place. It's all these chemicals put together, highly processed. You're going to die. If you keep eating, you will die. Okay, I'm sorry. Then you have Flat 12. Sorry, McDonald's. Then you have Flat 12 lion's mane nugget. Now it's not, there's canola oil in there and everything, but local eggs, mushroom. This is mostly a whole food product. Eggs, mushroom, panko, right?
Yep.
Some spices. A kid goes to school and gets that on their lunch platter, all right? And eats this and thinks this is a great thing. And that can start to make a huge change. Cooking in public places and or at farmers markets, getting people out to farmers markets and having people try. Oh, you don't like vegetables? Try it. Wait, why does that taste better? Let your body, this part of this ecology, inform our decision and start there with love of good food.
That experience aspect to it is important, and especially with getting that experience to younger people. Because to me, like, I always struggle with like, oh, what's my demographic? Like, who do I want to like inspire? Really, it's everyone. But it's really the kids, because they are the future. So
and open-minded.
The more kids we can get thinking about this stuff and learning these parallel systems, and then because they're so digital native, they can kind of be born into that, what you were saying, framework of starting to develop these technologies for this sort of stuff. That's really how I see it happening. And my first guest, actually, Elias Martinez, he was a microgreens farmer, and then he now does STEM teaching agriculture with
that's
after
cool.
School programs.
Yeah.
And he's just getting the kids to learn about like aquaponics and hydroponics and just different things, just getting them excited and seeing like, oh, career in agriculture isn't just to be a farmer. It could be the tech behind it, which
totally.
What you were saying.
Totally.
Which I think is really important.
Yeah, everything, spreading the word, social media, and the thing with like a digital native younger people is that, it all feeds into itself, like the research thing. The more research we have, the more is, fed into ChatGPT, the more that is accessible, the more that when people start to realize, oh, wait, like I am nature, or people start to realize, oh, wait, this food tastes better. It makes me feel better. I love this food. When you start to that kicks off, we live in the digital space, which is you have access to so much. And it's not like, older times where you kind of have what you can either get in a library or what you hear. Now you can just go on your phone and go in any direction. So it all feeds into each other. It all feeds into itself, the research and people getting interested and taking whatever path that goes on. And yeah, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a farmer out there. You could be developing any of the technologies we have today, or in the social space, or in policy making space, and be farming.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
So why I'm hopeful is because I see the tide is shifting, and this podcast is to help shift it more. But also I've realized that most of the damage that we've done has been in like the last flick of time on like the grand scale of things. So I know that we then have ample time to still shift our perspectives and our actions to the food system in order to make this change. Like it is already happening. I just want to push on the gas more and try to bring in people who aren't thinking about this stuff to start thinking, oh, maybe you buy whatever iceberg lettuce or lettuce like every week or whatever. Throw some lettuce seeds down. Like it's crazy the difference between store-bought lettuce and homegrown lettuce. Like store-bought lettuce has no like nutrients in it. All the nutrients was gone within like 48 hours. It maybe has some like macronutrients
Some
left.
fiber.
Yeah, there's no
Water.
antioxidants. You pick lettuce at home, you see this white resin come out of it, and that's the antioxidants. You never get that at the store.
No, it's a very ephemeral thing.
But yeah, are you hopeful? Why are you hopeful?
Yeah, I'm super hopeful. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're all here, and we're all here right now, with everything going on in our country and in the world. And I know that doing this work is very fulfilling to me, and I do have the privilege of being born into it, and also to be able to make enough money to support myself in doing what I'm doing. I worked for minimum wage for a long time, but I'm able to support myself now doing this. Not everybody, has that, was born into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hopeful because this is a good life, and I like what I'm doing. And at the end of my life, I'm gonna know, like, hey, I was working on that thing and made some things happen. And I think that, like, whatever level of involvement that someone can have if they care about this, whether it's just, I'm gonna go to the farmer's market and I'm gonna get some of my stuff from there, whether it's like, hey, like, let me learn about this and just try to do the best I can within my budget. At the end of the day, like, hey, maybe the world becomes a desert and we all dry up and die. But that'll be the journey. And I think that like what we were saying, what brings people to this? Love. So like the more we go in that direction, I think the more enjoyment people have. Good food is good, stay healthy, stay strong, and but it's okay. We can cultivate some detachment. Like, we're here right now. Let's move in that direction. We'll see where we go.
So looking back, what advice would you give to a younger Sam? If you could speak to a Sam maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Well, 15 years ago, I was 15. So for that, I would say, listen, you little brat, enjoy where you're at right now and make the best of this. Like, don't, where you're at is beautiful, but honestly, I need advice right now. I think the advice that I would give myself right now is be present, like, do the good work, but don't get too obsessed with the work. You need to nourish yourself as well. Like, this is ecology. Like, ecology needs to rest. Ecology needs space. It's the same with yourself when you're working on these things. And like, you're saying, is there any hope? If you get caught into that mindset, you get into this thing, you start learning about all the negatives. That can be extremely overwhelming.
Yeah.
If you have any type of emotional capacity, or you get sick from these foods you're eating. That can be extremely overwhelming. But I think the advice that I would give is, just like keep doing whatever you can and move along that path. Take it seriously, but not too seriously, and everything will be okay.
And then any other advice for like young farmers or chefs that are kind of aligned with these ideas and goals?
don't compromise. Do that thing. Do that thing that you know you're supposed to do. You got to survive, right? But really, you can do whatever you want in this life. Like for the past 5 years, I've been just following this path and pretty much making no money. Zeroing myself every time I would like go somewhere, or I'd work a job for minimum wage just because I wanted to learn. But like, don't take compromises and just keep following that internal, what you know is right. Like, you think you want to be a chef? Okay, do that. Survive, but do that thing while respecting yourself. Because if you don't respect yourself, like I got way too drawn into things and like overworking, you know, working like 3 jobs at once. Like at one point I was working at the farm shop, I was working at Butterblock, and I was working at Flat 12 at the same time, and I was helping out my parents' farm. Don't do that. You'll get depressed. Don't get depressed. that will be bad. So yeah, don't compromise, but survive and nourish yourself at the same time.
Awesome. And then I know there's the Instagram page, but how else can people learn more about your farm?
For sure. Well, it's not my farm, it's my parents' farm. But so we have the Instagram page, Native Offerings. And then for the cannabis brand, it's called B-Side Cannabis. You can go to the Elmwood Bidwell Farmers Market or the East Aurora Farmers Market on Wednesdays and find produce from Native Offerings Farm. And then there are several dispensaries across, you know, this area where you can find B-Side Cannabis. That includes Devil's Lettuce, Mary Jane's, and East Leaf, among others.
And I'll include all that information in the description for people to just click on those links. But thank you, Sam, very much for taking the trip out here and talking with me today. This was very fun. And have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and please share it with someone that you think will enjoy it too.